Hey, what's going on, Guardians? My name is the Black Link, and today is Thursday, March 11th, 2021. You know what that means. It's time for another issue of the Bungie Weekly Blog, This Week at Bungie. And this time around, we have got some rather exciting news to cover. We're going to learn a bit more about the return of Grandmaster Nightfall, set to start in about a week or so. We're also going to be learning about some incoming major changes. We're getting a patch note preview for a big update that's going to be coming real soon. And of course, those patch notes are going to cover all kinds of things that you care about, including some incoming PvP and PvE stasis changes. Let's go ahead and dive on into this week's TWAB. First things first, starting next week on March 16th, Grandmaster Nightfalls are going to become available. For those of you out there who maybe have never done a Grandmaster, these are enhanced difficulty Nightfall strikes. They're going to be set at 1350 power, and the minimum power required to enter them is going to be 1325. For these strikes, contest mode will be enabled, so even if you get to a higher length than 1325, you'll still be capped to that power level, just like you are in contest raids. Each strike will have a specific set of modifiers to ramp up the difficulty, so make sure to inspect each one to know which champions you'll face and what other challenges will await you. One Grandmaster Nightfall will be available each week until April 20th, and then starting on April 20th, you'll have the opportunity to blaze through all available Grandmaster Nightfalls through a direct launch playlist. Meaning on 420, you're gonna blaze it. I caught that joke, Bungie. And if you happen to miss a week, the final 3 weeks of the season are your opportunity to catch up on Grandmaster Nightfalls. So there we go real quick. It's almost time for Grandmasters to go live, and you guys know I'm really excited about this. I never ran Grandmaster Nightfalls before, well, specifically because there was no real reason to do so. The rewards kinda sucked for it. Thankfully, those rewards have seen a major tuning with Season of the Chosen, since these Grandmaster Nightfalls are going to present our first opportunity to earn Adept Nightfall weapons. That's right, Adept versions of the Shadow Price, the Palindrome, and the Swarm are going to be available when completing Grandmaster difficulty Nightfalls. These Adept versions will grant additional stat bonuses when masterworked and can be socketed with Adept weapon mods. You can earn those mods in Trials of Osiris, or you'll be able to earn them through Grandmaster Nightfalls as well. Additionally, this will also be your first opportunity to earn a gilded version of the Conqueror title. If you see somebody sporting this in a few weeks, you'll know they went through an ordeal to earn it. Well, not just one, but many ordeals to earn it. Overall, I'm really excited about the coming inclusion of Grandmaster Nightfalls. It feels great to finally have a reason to run those. Really looking forward to going for Conqueror this time. But that's not even close to being all of the big news we've got to cover this week. Next up, we've got a patch preview for the big patch that'll be dropping next Tuesday on March 16th. These are going to be some changes coming with Destiny 2 Update 3.1.1, and some of them are fairly significant. Let's go through them. There are a few strike fixes in there for the Devil's Lair as well as the Fallen Saber Strike, mainly fixing a few of the glitches that were tied to those. A section after that covers some major armor changes though. First, they fixed an issue with the Linear Actuators exotic perk for the Titan exotic Dune Marchers, which was not triggering properly. The perk now behaves as expected, triggering on melee strikes after an appropriate amount of sprint time. A big one after that is that the Omioculus no longer grants melee energy when making yourself invisible under some circumstances. You're not going to get that bonus melee energy back. And the Cuirass of the Falling Star no longer grants an overshield when used with supers other than Thunder Crash. That was a weird little glitch that was going on, but I'm glad to see that they didn't just outright nerf the amount of insane damage that gives the Thunder Crash. Good stuff. Next up, a few changes for weapons. They fixed an issue where flavor text wasn't appearing for several seasonal weapons. They've added Rumble to the end of Dead Man's Tales Reload. They've adjusted the Risk Runner perks VFX that were causing epileptic issues and reduced Arbalest aim assist, making it harder to hit headshots in the Crucible. That's probably going to be the one that a lot of people are really excited about. Arbalest is one of those guns where you can kind of aim at somebody's elbow and still get a precision shot. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how that's going to affect the weapon moving forward. Additionally, they've set the Frenzy and Cranial Spike perks to use the correct buff icons, and they've fixed Taiku's Divination's missing kill feed icon. Finally, after a few weeks of development and playtests, they've also had a round of stasis balancing slated for March 23rd. And then we get a preview of some of these stasis changes that'll be coming a week after this update drops. The gameplay team at Bungie states that some of the changes they're looking at making are going to focus around making stasis a less frustrating obstacle in PvP. And they want to do that while maintaining their power and PvE content wherever possible. And so, in the patch notes that we're about to go through, they've explicitly mentioned which changes will affect Crucible functionality only, meaning we're going to see some changes that are only in PvP versus changes that are only in PvE. They're finally starting to balance these things separately, and I could not be happier. Let's go ahead and dive on in. First up, Hunter Revenant changes. 1. Shatter Dive. They've removed damage resistance from Shatter Dive and added a 4-second cooldown between its activations. Then, for the Withering Blade, they've decreased Withering Blade damage against players from 90 to 65 damage. Its PvE damage is unchanged. They've also decreased Withering Blade slow stacks applied to players from 60 to 40 stacks. The slow effect in PvE is going to be unchanged though. And then finally, they've decreased the target acquisition range of Withering Blade after it impacts a player from 12 meters to 8 meters. But like the other changes, this range change isn't going to affect the way it works in PvE. Ending out some major changes to the Hunter Revenant class. But that's not where this party's stopping. Next up is the Titan Behemoth. First up, for Glacial Quake, they've removed AoE freeze against players on Supercast. Will still freeze PvE enemies on cast, however. They've also reduced damage resistance while in the super from 60% to 50%, and they've increased the energy cost of using Shiver Strike while in Glacial Quake from 3% to 7% super energy. Finally, using the combo of Shiver Strike into a heavy attack slam will now cost the full super energy of both the Shiver Strike and the slam, where I guess previously it only cost energy for the slam there. Basically, it means you're going to be running out of your super energy a lot faster when you're using Glacial Quake. Then, for Shiver Strike, they've increased the downwards velocity applied to Shiver Striking players when they're slowed to pull them out of the air more strongly. So some pretty interesting changes there to Titan Behemoths. I think the lowering of damage resistance is probably going to be a really big thing. Plus, the enhanced energy cost of using those attacks means that you're going to have less time overall in your super, so you're going to have to use your attacks a bit more sparingly and less for movement options. Finally, Warlock changes. Not sure why we've got some Shademinder changes coming, but let's see what they've got here. First up, Winter's Wrath. They've improved tracking of Winter's Wrath projectiles. Now, the tracking strength decays from its max value over 10 seconds instead of 2.2 seconds, so it's going to track people more reliably now. They've also increased the size of the Warlock Super Projectile's proximity detonation radius from 1.5 meters to 1.65 meters, meaning you're going to be able to hit people a little bit farther away. And the proximity detonation now starts at its largest and scales down 40% over time. Next up is the Shadebinder Melee Penumbral Blast. They've decreased Penumbral Blast damage against players from 80 to 30 damage. Its PvE damage is, however, unchanged. After that, we've got changes to Ice Flare Bolts. First off, they fixed a bug where the bolts would continuously try to switch targets, and they've increased target acquisition range of Ice Flare Bolts by 33%, making them far more accurate than they currently are. They've also increased the turning speed of Ice Flare Bolts so they can more effectively hit nearby targets. Then finally, in a change I don't think anybody was asking for, but shoot, what other kind of changes do we as Warlocks ever get? Chaos Reach, a super that had been seeing a bit of a resurgence with the current season. They've decreased the amount of super energy refunded when canceling Chaos Reach early. Don't know why they decided to nerf my boy Chaos Reach, but there it is. That's the life of a Warlock. But alright, those are the big sandbox changes. Next up, we have some general changes for the Stasis class. First off, Duskfield grenades are seeing some big changes. 1, they've reduced how strongly those grenades pull players inwards, effectively reducing the pull range from 9.5 meters to 6 meters. However, the PvE pull is going to be unchanged. Really happy to hear about that. They've also reduced the slow stacks applied to players by the grenade detonation from 20 stacks down to 10 stacks. That's going to be unchanged in PvE. Next, they've reduced the slow stacks applied to players on each tick of the grenade from 10 stacks to 5 stacks, meaning you're going to get less stacks of the slow debuff for getting hit with this grenade than you currently do. And of course, like some of the other changes, this is going to be unchanged in PvE, so there's going to be no stasis change here in PvE. Finally, they've adjusted the UI presentation of the slowed status to display stacks as being out of 100 rather than out of 10, to increase readability when adding slow stack amounts that are fewer than 10. Next up, we've got changes to stasis crystals. They've reduced crystal shatter damage against players from a maximum of 85 and a minimum of 55 to a maximum of 55 and a minimum of 25 damage. PvE damage is unchanged. That's a major damage reduction to stasis crystals though. For Whisper of Chains, they've reduced Whisper of Chains damage resistance bonus while in Super from 25% to 5%. However, the damage resistance when not in Super is unchanged. This only affects damage from other Guardians, so a major damage resistance nerf there, from 25% to 5%, wow. Then, Whisper of Torment. They fixed a bug where players could continuously proc Whisper of Torment while standing inside of an opponent's barricade. And finally, Stasis Fragment Quest. They've significantly reduced objective completion values for all Crucible Fragment quests. So not only is Stasis going to be less annoying in PvP, Stasis Fragment quests are going to be a lot easier to complete in PvP, which I, for one, am pretty thankful for. I completed all mine already, but I for other players out there who are still trying to get that done, I'm thankful for that change. But there we go, Guardians. Some major changes coming, not this coming week, not with patch 3.1.1 set to drop on March 16th, but dropping a week later on March 23rd. These stasis tuning notes show that Bungie is taking a rather serious approach to the big problem of stasis in the Crucible. And I absolutely love, that they are separating some of their tuning in PvP from what they're doing in PvE. Stasis feels great in PvE. It would have felt really bad to have all of these changes affect that too, just because the subclass can be annoying in the Crucible. So I'm very happy to see that Bungie's taking the time and effort to separate what they're doing there. Good stuff. But alright, Guardians, that's pretty much it for the biggest bits of news contained in this week's issue of the Bungie Weekly Blog, This Week at Bungie. We got a great preview of the patch notes for what's going to be coming on Tuesday and then a week after that. And again, I for one am really excited to see Grandmaster Nightfalls. I love the fact that they have brought these classic D1 weapons back. I've been grinding them out in normal Nightfalls, and I can't wait to go for the Adept versions later. But anyways, that's the news and those are my thoughts. Be sure to leave me yours down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, make sure you subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest stuff we're putting out. I'm out for now. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.